this is Jordan from Sleeklens.com, and in this video I'm going to show you how to do a motion blur slash panning effect in Adobe Photoshop. So if you've ever done sports photography or NASCAR photography, racing photography, stuff like that, if you've ever done that part of photography, you've noticed that if you have the right settings on your camera and you take a photo of a very fast-moving subject that's moving across you, what you get is the subject normally tacked, sharp, and focused, but the background is really blurred out. And what that effect is called panning, and that a panning effect makes it just look like the car or the person or whatever is going extremely fast. And that's a really cool technique to use, and it can be done in camera. But a lot of people don't know how to do that technique. And so one way to do that in Photoshop is to use a motion blur. And so in this video, I'm going to show you how to do that. So we have this young kid here, and he's running to the next base here. And what I want to do is make the background, it's already blurred out pretty good, but I want to make the background look like it's streaking, it's going across. While he's still at tack sharp focus. So one way to do that is to do a motion blur. And so I'm going to show you how to do this without cutting your subject out, because that is the key to doing this effect. So I'm just going to go to blur and then go to motion blur here, and you can see the effect it gives. It's blurring out the background, but it's also blurring our subject, and that's what we want to not happen. And so I'm going to go ahead and cancel that. And what I'm going to do is cut out my subject from the background here. So there's many ways to do this. You can get a pen tool, you can get an adjustment layer, you can do all kinds of stuff, but I'm just going to use a simple quick selection tool here, and I'm just going to quickly cut out this young man here and get him away from the background. All right, so there we go. We got our cutout here, and it looks pretty decent. If I want to use this one, it's probably going to be fine to just apply the effect. However, if you want to get a better selection, you can always do the select and mask up here, and you can get a better selection. Try to get a very tuned in selection, but like I said, I don't think it's going to amount to much anyway, because it's a pretty good selection already. And so I'm just going to keep it as it is, do a couple little check marks here to try to help, but I'm just going to click make the selection here and click OK. And now all I'm going to do is do a copy and paste. So I'm going to hit Command or Control C and then Command or Control V for paste. So now we have this guy all by himself on a transparent layer. And so the next step is to, if we apply the effect now, we're still going to see the underlying guy being blurred. And so what I want to do is get rid of everything, make it look like there's nobody here. So again, there's more ways to do this. You can do a spot healing brush with a content aware setting, but I'm just going to do it the sort of manual way. I'm going to get a blank layer. I'm going to get my clone stamp tool, and I'm just going to make a very, very rough selection. I'm not going to be very precise with this really at all, because it really doesn't matter once we blur it out. So I'm just going to roughly get rid of him, and it doesn't have to be perfect. All right, so just like that, there's nobody there. Actually, it turns out pretty well. I might want to go ahead and get rid of this kicked up dirt area just to make it nice and clean. Make sure he's gone all the way. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and merge these two layers together. So I have my clone layer here and my background layer. I'm just going to highlight both of them and click Command or Control E, and that will combine them both. And so now this is basically where we started. We have the cutout guy here running, and then this is where we apply the motion blur effect. So I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, Motion Blur, and now you can see the effect that it gives. He is tack sharp. Looks like he's sprinting through the air, and we can just blur it as much as we want to. We can go a little bit less, and you can see as we just blur it more and more and more, looks like he's running faster and faster. The key is to make sure that your angle here is very close to 0. You want it to be that way, just to show that's like a panning effect there. So I'm going to click OK right there. And so this is pretty much the effect. The only thing that I'm going to do just to kind of help it a little bit, it doesn't really need it whatsoever, is to make a shadow under this guy. It doesn't need it at all, but it's just something I like to do. So I'm going to get a regular brush. I'm going to go to the brush picker here, and I'm going to make my brush a really, really skinny, narrow, like an oval here. So you can see what we got right there. Now I'm going to get a black brush, make sure it's feathered, hardness down to 0 there. And now I'm going to change my opacity and my flow to roughly around 30 on both. All right, so here's where we paint in the shadow. I'm going to go ahead and just click once, and you can see it kind of gives that way. I forgot to set my hardness down to 0. There we go. And we can just click in. We don't want it to be too crazy of a shadow, but I just want to make it look like there's someone actually standing there and he's not just hovering. So you see I'm making very light clicks. And it's just filling in a little bit darker there. So there we go. Looks like he's running through. He's running really, really fast. And it's just a really cool technique to do if you have, again, sports photography, cars, anything fast moving that's moving in front of you. It's a really cool effect to do. So hope you enjoyed that quick tutorial on doing the motion blur / panning effect in Adobe Photoshop. This is Jordan from Sleeklens.com, and I'll see you in the next video.